The man in the charcoal three-piece suit stood frozen, his face drained of color as passengers pulled out their phones. The flight attendant with the gold wings pin had just whispered 7 words into his ear, and suddenly his expensive briefcase felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. 20 minutes earlier, he had publicly humiliated the pregnant woman in the gray sweater. Now, security was walking toward him. What could possibly turn a simple seat dispute into a career-ending moment? The answer would make him wish he had never boarded that plane. Chicago O'Hare Terminal 3 buzzed with the controlled chaos of evening departures. Gate C-22 glowed under fluorescent lights as golden hour sun streamed through massive windows, casting long shadows across travelers waiting for Flight 2847 to San Francisco. Departure monitors blinked updated boarding times, while the smell of airport coffee, mixed with jet fuel, drifted through the air. Near the window sat a young pregnant woman with shoulder-length brown hair in a loose ponytail, wearing a soft gray maternity sweater, black leggings, and white sneakers. She gently rubbed her visible baby bump while scrolling through her phone, her small navy blue carry-on bag resting beside her feet. She looked tired but peaceful, occasionally glancing at the planes taxiing outside, completely unaware that the next 15 minutes would become a viral sensation. Boarding began for first-class passengers. The pregnant woman in the gray sweater stood slowly, grabbing her navy carry-on, and joined the priority line. She handed her boarding pass to the gate agent and walked down the jetway with other first-class travelers. Behind her, a stocky man in his mid-50s with silver-gray slicked-back hair approached the gate. He wore an expensive charcoal three-piece suit with gold cufflinks gleaming under the lights, a burgundy silk tie perfectly knotted, and polished black Oxford shoes that clicked against the tile floor. His leather briefcase bore the embossed logo of a major consulting firm. He carried himself with the posture of someone accustomed to deference. The man in the charcoal suit entered the aircraft and located his seat, 2A. But someone was already in 2B done. The pregnant woman in the gray maternity sweater was settling into the window seat, adjusting her seatbelt under her baby bump. His jaw tightened. He stopped in the aisle, blocking other boarding passengers. He stared at the young woman with shoulder-length brown hair, his eyes scanning her casual sweater and leggings with obvious disapproval. She didn't notice him at first, busy arranging her bag in the overhead compartment. He cleared his throat loudly. She turned and smiled politely. The man in the expensive suit didn't smile back. He gestured at her seat and then at the economy section behind them, his expression making his thoughts crystal clear. She didn't belong here. Other first-class passengers began noticing the tension. The pregnant woman in the gray sweater looked confused, pointing to her boarding pass on her phone screen. The stocky man in the three-piece suit shook his head dismissively. He pulled out his own phone and typed something, then showed her the screen, apparently a first-class upgrade confirmation, as if his status proved her unworthiness. His gestures grew more aggressive, pointing repeatedly toward economy, his gold cufflinks catching the cabin light with each motion. The young woman's face flushed. She tried showing her ticket again, but the man in the burgundy tie waved it away. Other passengers whispered and pulled out phones. The pregnant woman in the white sneakers looked around desperately for help, one hand protectively on her belly. The businessman in the charcoal suit then did something that made everyone gasp. He reached for her navy blue carry-on bag in the overhead bin, clearly intending to remove it himself and force her out of the seat. The pregnant woman in the gray maternity sweater stood abruptly, tears forming in her eyes. She backed into the aisle, visibly shaking. The man in the expensive suit smirked triumphantly and began to sit down in what he believed should have been his rightfully upgraded seat. Several passengers started recording. An elderly woman in the row behind covered her mouth in shock. A teenage boy muttered something about calling for help. The pregnant woman with the loose ponytail looked utterly defeated, humiliation written across her face as she clutched her baby bump. If your heart breaks for this injustice, please like and subscribe to support kindness. We need more compassion in this world. The cabin door was still open. Suddenly, a tall woman in her early 40s with sleek black hair and a tight bun appeared in the first-class cabin. She wore the airline's navy blue uniform with perfect creases, a red silk scarf at her neck, and a gold wings pin that caught every eye. Her pressed slacks and authoritative posture commanded immediate attention. This was the lead purser, and her face showed barely controlled fury. The flight attendant with the gold wings pin walked directly to the man in the charcoal three-piece suit. She didn't raise her voice, but her tone cut through the cabin like ice. She gestured to the pregnant woman in the gray sweater and then pulled out a tablet, showing the businessman something on the screen. His smirk vanished. The color drained from his face. His hand with the gold cufflinks began to tremble. The flight attendant with the sleek bun then did something extraordinary. She leaned close to his ear and whispered something that made his knees buckle. Other first-class passengers leaned forward, trying to hear. The flight attendant with the red silk scarf then turned to address the entire first-class cabin, her voice calm but clear. She explained that the pregnant woman in the gray maternity sweater was actually Sarah Mitchell, the CEO of the airline, traveling incognito to personally assess customer service quality across routes. The cabin erupted in gasps. Phone cameras swung toward the businessman in the expensive suit, whose face had gone from red to white to green. The woman in the gray sweater with the baby bump stood quietly, her composure returning, though tears still glistened on her cheeks. The flight attendant with the gold wings pin then informed the man in the burgundy silk tie that his behavior had been recorded by multiple passengers and that he was being removed from the flight. Security personnel appeared at the cabin door. The stocky man with the silver-gray slicked hair tried to protest, but the lead purser simply shook her head. The CEO in the gray maternity sweater finally spoke quietly to the flight attendant, requesting that the man be placed on the company's permanently banned passenger list. No violence, no shouting, just quiet, dignified authority. As security escorted the man in the charcoal suit off the aircraft, the entire first-class cabin began to applaud. The pregnant CEO returned to her window seat, and a passenger offered her a bottle of water. The flight attendant with the sleek bun ensured she was comfortable before returning to her duties. The flight took off smoothly. The CEO in the gray sweater gazed out at the Chicago skyline fading below, one hand on her baby bump. She wasn't traveling incognito to punish people. She wanted to understand what her passengers truly experienced. But she had learned something profound. Respect isn't about the seat you occupy or the suit you wear. It's about recognizing the humanity in every person you encounter. The businessman learned this lesson the hardest way possible. His arrogance cost him not just a flight, but his reputation. Meanwhile, the passengers who witnessed true leadership in action would never forget the pregnant woman in the gray sweater who taught them that real power doesn't need to shout. Where are you watching from? Have you ever stood up for someone being misjudged? Share your story in the comments. Your voice matters.